There are certain things in the NFL that are true. Andy Reid on a bye. Shanahan rested, healthy team on a bye. Should we look at this for Jacksonville? I'm a little bothered by it because it's okay if a Seattle or Detroit plays Lamar Jackson. There's nothing in the league like him. NFC teams have no idea. He's like 17-1. But you're at home. You were rested. You were healthy. That game was never competitive. I've been a huge Jags fan. I got to be honest with you. I didn't like what I saw.
I think it was a perfect storm. I wouldn't put the stamp of approval that this Jags team is going to go to the AFC Championship game, but I'm going to give them a little bit, throw that thing in the trash can. They got the 49ers coming off 3 losses. John Lynch said last week their team looked like they were running with concrete in their shoes. They looked so slow. They were desperate for a bye. Everyone needed to take a deep breath. Their defensive line, Colin, was really underachieving. When the Yankees lose, they're paying all their hitters to hit home runs. When they don't hit home runs, they're just going to lose. When the 49ers don't sack the quarterback, the amount of money, they have the highest paid defensive lineman in the league in Bosa. They gave Hargrave $20 million a year, 40 guaranteed this offseason, the highest paid free agent defensive lineman. They just trade for Chase Young. Eric Armstead makes $16 million a year. They're all in on that group. When that group doesn't dominate, and I know statistically they were like leading the league in pressures, it did not look the same. What I witnessed today, Nick Bosa is a good example. He was statistically, pressures-wise, having a good year. But when you watched him, you went, he doesn't look like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett right now. Because a great pass rusher, it doesn't matter what you throw at him, right? That's why Belichick always pushes back when people compare someone to Lawrence Taylor. He goes, you could throw 7 people at him. He's hung over. He's still sacking the quarterback. So there are no excuses. Now you put Chase Young over there. Nick Bosa looked like the $125 million man again. And if that's the case, the Niners are potent because Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the league. Hufanga is a fantastic playmaker. So to me, that defensive line, they are built to play from ahead. Brock Purdy today, if he doesn't turn the ball over, he's a really explosive quarterback. He averaged over 11 yards of completion. They push the ball down the field.
Yes.
He is not afraid to throw the ball down the field. And they have made NFC Championship runs with dinking and dunking and playing defense. So when you push the ball down the field, that's the team that was kicking the shit out of everybody the first 5 weeks. But it starts with the defense. And when their defense dominates like that, like Trevor Lawrence, kind of went into a shell. But I got news for you. I think besides like Mahomes and Josh Allen and maybe Lamar, most people are getting destroyed and they have no shot. And even those guys might lose if that's the performance. But Trevor Lawrence becomes much more pedestrian when you're peppering him every play, which the 49ers did.
It's funny. For years, the Ravens and the Niners have had these constant injuries in camp and in preseason, and you just wait for them to get healthy. And I wonder the two downsides to Shanahan's style. Number one, half the league is using it now, so the element of surprise. Now he's the genius behind it, right? So it's copycat versions of that offense, but there's less of an element of surprise. A lot of people are using it. So his window for a couple of years, nobody's doing it, I'm doing it, that's over. Yeah. So that hurts a little. And that's why quarterback becomes so valuable, because in these close playoff games, it's a play by a Herbert. It's a play by a Mahomes or a Burrow. It's a play. The second thing is that physicality is really the trademark of his dad and Kyle. And we got another, 8 weeks regular season, 6-7 weeks regular season. And I watched them today and I said, that version, that's the best team in the league.
Yeah,
that's the best team in the league. But even their practices are intense. Their entire culture, like Baltimore, is intense. Baltimore and San Francisco, there's a reason they're always hurt. And I look at the Niners today and I thought, if you gave me that team, that they're going to get to the NFC Championship. But I wonder, and you knew this team very well, is that can Kyle, can you take the foot off? Can you give McCaffrey a week off? Can you rest Debo? Is it in them?
No.
The schedule's not. No. It's not in them. No. So it's like you're asking. You marry the party animal, and then you're upset that he's the party animal. That's what attracted you to the party animal. It's like, this is who they are. I just don't know if they'll be healthy by the end. They never feel like they are. And now for our segment called Making It Look Easy, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Brock Purdy off a bye. Did he make it look easy or what? 19 of 26, almost 300 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Brock Purdy had 149 passer rating, making it look easy. Morgan & Morgan makes it very easy to submit a claim. They have over 100 offices nationwide. 100 offices, 800 lawyers, $15 billion through the years in claims. You will get a fair and just compensation if you use Morgan & Morgan. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. If you're ever injured, go to forthepeople.com/Colin or dial pound 529 to check out America's largest injury law firm. Winning in the NFL is hard. Hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy.
Yeah, Kyle's established who he is. I mean, he will run Christian McCaffrey into the ground because that's his best player. And I think you saw today a lot. Why do the Eagles win so many games the last couple of years? Because for the most part, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert have been on the field. And no team's going to have three better players than that. And that's been the difference in a lot of their wins right now, whatever they're 8-1. Well, the 49ers, you remove Trent Williams, who's basically like Shaquille O'Neal in the NFL in his prime,
right,
and Deebo Samuel, who becomes their second best player behind McCaffrey and George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk. They're unstoppable. But you remove those two guys, as you saw the last couple of weeks, they become a little more pedestrian, and their margin for error is a lot slimmer. But to me, Kyle is wired like a guy that would have been in the 80s, that would have been coaching against Buddy Ryan and Bill Parcells and Bill Walsh. Yeah. He would have fit. He would have had a lot in common. Kyle's viewed as this young guy with his whole crew. He's an old soul. To me, he has much more in common with Belichick and Pete Carroll, guys in their 70s, in terms of philosophically the way he looks at football, which makes sense. What did he grow up around? Mike Shanahan in the 80s and 90s in the NFL, being at practice, being around that. And Mike Shanahan was notoriously somewhat of a conservative coach. Why? Running game first. And like you said, the difference also, Kyle and some of these other guys, they all run the same plays. Kyle does have better players. There's a collegiate element where, a lot of teams run certain things in college, but do you have Alabama or Ohio State's personnel? Because when he's rolling out Deebo and he's rolling out McCaffrey and he's rolling out Ayuk, it's not really a fair fight. And listen, the Jags are pretty good. Like, the Jags have a lot of good offensive personnel. They couldn't even begin to sniff the group that came in motivated. That's the other thing. This is a group of guys that have won a lot of playoff games. Everyone's, dragging them through the mud, and rightfully so. They've been pretty embarrassing the last couple of weeks. They came out. They probably would have beat any team in the league today, given what was on the line.
And let's be honest about Jacksonville. So I've seen them get hammered by San Francisco, can't beat Kansas City. I still think they're a baby step away.
I agree.
It's not a giant step from being Cincinnati. I just don't think they're there yet. So, and the other thing is, I like Trevor Lawrence. I love college football so much that I think, part of me, I don't think Trevor's as good as Andrew Luck, but I think he's really, really good. I don't think Caleb Williams is probably as good as Andrew Luck, maybe as good as Trevor. But one of the things that Luck and Trevor Lawrence share in common, and this is one of the criticisms I've heard about both early, but I didn't think I wasn't going to question it on the air. Do they live for football? They love playing it. Andrew Luck gave up the sport. There's no fallacy here that anybody thinks, oh, he misses it dearly. Trevor Lawrence has said publicly, like, I love playing football, but it doesn't define me. GMs and owners don't want to hear that. Coaches don't want to hear that. And I think Trevor's a great competitor, but I do look at sometimes Trevor Lawrence, and I don't see quite the fire I would love. But I mean, who am I to say that? But Brady is 44, six rings.
Colin, he said it. He said it once upon a time. He said, football is not everything to me, or what. I might be butchering his exact quote, but remember around the draft.
Yeah.
He said those words. And let's use today as an example. You had one of the best prospects of the last 20 years, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And you had Mr. Irrelevant, right? And I would say one defining characteristic of Brock Purdy, why Fred Warner, why George Kittle, why Christian McCaffrey, who are wired like Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, addicts, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Brock Purdy fits under that. Football is everything to him.
Yeah.
It means absolutely everything to him. And that's the thing with Trevor Lawrence. He's so much more gifted than everyone else. Is there a little bit of a basketball element? Like his talent, 6'4", 6'5", good arm, naturally accurate, can move. It's easy. Showed up at Clemson in the middle of their dynasty, immediately starts. The other guy gets told to transfer. Brock Purdy's begging for scholarships, comes third string. There's an element, and we've talked about this a lot before. Most of the quarterbacks that are having a lot of success are not the number one overall pick. Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, but Peyton's even more of an example because he played for as long as he did, is an all-time outlier.